We'll start with the Dinim of Bdikis, checking of bugs, which will be probably 2 or 3 shiurim, and we'll also go over a little bit how to check it, practical mere Hashem. But just to start off, the halachas to begin with is the iser of toloim, bugs in food, is not like all other isirim. There's an iser of eating non-kosher food, eating of chazer, other animals which is not kosher, fish which is not kosher, all kind of foods which are not kosher. If you eat, you're over of iser. Iser daraisa. You get malchus one time. Every kizayis you're going to eat, you're going to get extra markers, but you're over of one iser. When it comes to bugs, there are bugs which you eat one bug and you're over on 6 isirim. Other bugs, you're over a 5 isirim, and other kind of bugs, you'll be over on 4 isirim. So, because the Torah writes there's sheretz off, means things which is flying, which is flies, mosquitoes, bees, wasps, all these kind of things which fly. The Torah writes the iser 6 times. Torah chazes over the iser 6 times. So since the Torah chazes over the iser 6 times, Zung Chazal, it comes to teach us that you're over 6 isirim, one fly, one bug. When it comes to sheretz ha'oretz, which is worms, spiders, ants, snake, scorpion, all these kind of things, the Torah chazet the sibur 5 times. So you're over on 5 isirim. And then there is sheretz hamayim, which the Torah chazes even 4 times. So since the Torah keeps on repeating this iser so many times, Zung Chazal, that you are over each. And that's why the Gemara says, Yesh oichel, the Gemara says the name of a one kind of bug, I don't know exactly what it is in English, and you're over, petisa, you're over on 6 isirim. That means if you eat a bug which is in the food, you will be over or 4 isirim, 5 isirim, or 6 isirim, depends what kind of bug it is. The Rishonim say, why did the Torah give such a thing? It should be so much isirim. Why chazer and camel food, meat, or horse meat, or non-kosher food, fish, or birds? One iser. Why dafka over here? It's so many isirim. Is the Rishonim say because the Torah wanted to tell you, although it's hard to check, it's small. It's not so easy to check, and it's not really too tasty. Even this, you should stay away, and therefore you are over all this asirim 5, 4, 6 times as much as it's possible. So that's the reason why a person could be over with one fly so many asirim. So again, sheretz ha'oretz, which I mentioned before, what it is 5 lavim. Sheretz hamayim is going to be 4 lavim. 4 isirim, that means you're going to get 4 times malchus. When they used to give malchus. And sheretz off is 6 times malchus, and you eat a piece of chazer is only 1 time. So we should at least realize what it means eating bugs. But these isirim is also only a thing which has to be a ner l'hanayim. Anything which we don't see in our physical eyes, the Torah did not aser. Therefore, there's a lot of foods, especially let's say vinegar. Nobody should have a microscope in the house and check vinegar under a microscope, or other foods. You're going to see a lot of things which you don't want to see, and you stop eating it. Why isn't it also to eat? The answer is because we don't see it. Anything which we don't see is not aser. Why? What's the reason? So the Gemara says, the Loshen, lo nitni Torah lemalachi hashuras. The Torah was not given for malachim. A human being, I cannot eat a fruit because maybe there is a bug which I don't see. The Rebbe created it and it's made to eat. And I don't see it. What shall I do? I checked. I did whatever I could do. So maybe there is something which I cannot see. The Torah did not ask a thing which is not seeable in human eyes. And that's not only, but this is in all the halachas. Anything which we don't see doesn't exist in halacha. But when a thing we do see, although it might be tiny, is Aisa Daraisa. So if a thing which we see, although I don't know what it is, but I could see it, then it's also in our Torah. If you don't see it at all, that's mitzvah l'kitchila. And therefore, again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things which we don't see, and we could eat it, it's not a problem. But anything which we could see, or a person which has a good eyesight, 20/20 eyesight, could see, automatically becomes osir, even for a person which cannot see it because he has a bad eyesight. Because be'etzem is a zach, which is seeable. So microscopes does not belong in Hilchos Tola'im. Nobody needs to have a microscope, and nobody needs to have a loop even. A loop is the tiny, which you look diamonds or precious metal. You know, this is what this, yeah, this is called a loop. All the Rabbonim have this in their pockets. So
you're not supposed to. Why though?
You don't need to. Oh, why do you need to look? It because we see something. Once you see something, now it's a problem. Now I could see a dot. And maybe it's osir, maybe not. So I want to have magnifying glass to see if it's osir, and sometimes it's only a shmitz. I could eat it, or other halachas, which is negaya. I want to see it clearly, but I have to see it. If I don't see it, then doesn't exist. So therefore, why do I have such a thing? Because whenever I will find something which is a dot, which we could see, over here it's already a problem. Now I might not see if it's a worm, but I see it already. So it could be a schmitz, it could be a worm. So therefore I take a look and see. The same is also in Hilchos Esrik. Yeah, people go by esroigim. Yeah, and there's a tiny dot. The halach is if you have a black dot on it in the upper part of the esrik, it's possible. So, but that doesn't mean that you have to look with a loop. You take an esrik like this. If you can't see it like this, that's fine. If you have a hole, you see something hole, you want to see if it's missing or not missing, then there's good a loop. So loop helps you. But it's not a chiyuv where you don't see any problems. It's not a chiyuv to look with magnifying glass or with a microscope. All those things in halacha doesn't exist because you don't see it. But again, once you see something, once you see a dot, then it could be that you have to check it. Kemivan, if it's a thing which is, we're going to get to that. What does it mean? Michzeh b'tulum, not michzeh b'tulum. But if it's a fruit, a vegetable, which is basically, it's not michzeh b'tulum, it usually doesn't have worm. So b'chal doesn't have worm. So if I see a dot, I don't have to think it's a worm. But if you have things which have trips, we know that they have from time to time, and you see a dot which it flags you, then you have to see what it is. But again, if you don't see it, then it's fine. But again, even if a person which has a good side will see it, then even if you don't see it, therefore, we're going to see soon, not everybody, if he doesn't learn how to check for bugs, not necessarily he will find bugs, because there's a lot of things which will distract you, because a lot of worms are camouflaged. Now, the Rabbi will be beschaffen that the worms, the bugs, the trips, which are in foods, are most of the time the color of the food. Not always, most of the time. So you have mildew, which is in flour, it's white. And you have on lettuce, the trips are green. So automatically, a person will say, I looked, I didn't see anything. Now, if it's dead, it's still usher, so you can't see it. If it's alive, you can see it creeping, at least you can see it that way. But if it's not a lebediga, so you can say, I checked, I don't see anything, which a lot of people told me. I checked, I never found in lettuce or in strawberries a worm. If you never found in strawberries or in lettuce a worm, that means you don't know what to check and for what to look. So therefore, it's kedai to know what kind of fruit and vegetables are mixed betalom, which we're going to get to the prutim on it, and it's kedai to know how it looks. And therefore, Baruch Hashem, today's day, there's a few books which came out which has actual color and the actual look of the trip of the worm, of the bug, which is a Ravai, which has, I think, 3 volumes in English and in Hebrew. One is for vegetables, one is for fruits, and one is halachas. And then there's another Rabbi Revach, and it's Israel. Then there's Rabbi Falk, made a book, was probably, you heard of it because in a lot of schools they learn from that book. So it is kedai to get to know these things in order to be able to, how to check it. Because again, you're talking about isirim, which is a lot of isirim. It's not the only one, isir. Kimivim Baruch Hashem, achsher dura. That means today's day we are blessed that we have a lot of fruit and vegetables which are growing in greenhouses. So automatically, greenhouses is rarely or almost none which has worms. Might have flies, so you still have to wash, rinse it, but just rinsing it will be enough. But a lot of things don't have greenhouses. So that's over there, that's tricky. But greenhouses are gewaltige brocha today's day, which solves a lot of problems. Or even the system, which have the frozen fruits, which have today's day Boydek, or Eden, or all these companies, which they do a lot of things in order that we should be able to, not be able to, you can eat without checking. First of all, they check the fields when they're on the fields. There's a lot of times when the Meshgich comes down to a field and checks and sees it's infested, they just leave. And then that's why you can see sometimes there's no frozen strawberries on the market because it was infested. So first of all, they check the whole field. Then, even ever checking, they have a beautiful, beautiful washing system. And then there still will be boidik, how do they say, not everything, but they will see spot checking, yeah. Then, so therefore, such a case, you don't have to check it. So therefore, today's day, achshadur, what the Gemara says, that today's day we are blessed, which when I grew up, there was no such thing. You couldn't eat a lot of things because it was infested.
So
now,
a greenhouse doesn't need a hechsher though, or could be just from any
even a
hechsher, right?
Even a greenhouse needs a hechsher.
It does.
It does need a hechsher, but the greenhouse is the mile that most of the time the greenhouse usually has a hechsher most of the time, right, because it's Jewish.
Wegmans, they have maybe
Aldi's.
There's not Jewish companies,
that have greenhouse grown lettuce.
Right. Yeah, but that you know it's still a problem because they didn't check it, they didn't wash it,
right?
So it has a bigger percentage that will be clean.
Right. You still have to do
But yeah, in such a case, it's kedai to buy this one because after all, it's a very small percentage that there should be anything. But halal, organic, the people who like to buy organic stuff, they have a bigger problem, a bigger problem than of the bugs, because over there's a lot of problems with it. I'm just bringing it to the attention that when it comes to greenhouses, when it comes to organic, it is usually more infested. I just want to quote a piece of shluch, which is a famous shluch, which we know the Alter Rebbe, before he became a chassid, he was a shluchit. This is the Friedrich Rings. He was kochazach in the shluch. So the shluch writes to his children, they married out. He was in Ashkenaz in Germany, and they married out in other countries. And the shluch writes to him, I'm asking you that you should be sure very, you should be makbet very much to check the foods, especially in summer, because then it's more infested. All the fruits are dried fruits, like floman, rosina. By the way, today's day, floman, maybe the dried ones, but the floman is not mixed with the But when we get to the stuff on these things, what is not mixed with the floman is plums.
How do you know that? Plum. Like plum.
It's in Yiddish.
It's in German.
Oh, it's in German.
Yeah. But we use it in Yiddish too. Rosina means razinkas, raisins. Bechomine kidneys, all the beans. Oires vedoichen, rice in millet. In your countries, they're not used to so much to be makbid on these things. We milse the schicha, and lemaisa, it's a milse schich. There's a lot of worms inside. We come up bekille kedoshe, Prague. A lot of times in our killa, I asked all these foods to eat. because the boidkim need to have good eyes and know what word they're looking for. And they say it's clean, it's manifested. And then anybody who has a good eyesight will start looking, will find. So therefore, I ask you, be very careful, because this is a thing which is very, very, very important to be makpat, because it's a isira deraisa. I want to add another thing which is very important before we go into the halachas. The Chazal say that machulas asiras is matamtem asalef. Eating non-kosher food, matamtem alef means matamtem asalef means that your brain gets desensitized, or even more. Matamtem means verstoppt, clogs your brain. Oh, that's the real translation. Clogs your brain, and therefore the Rebbe writes that we have to be very careful when it comes to mechulas asiras, especially for children. Therefore, the Rebbe was talking about it costs the chol of akim, non-kosher milk, or anything which has to do kashas, because it's matamtem as halef. It's matamtem as halef. Therefore, the Chazal say that even a lady which mitzat pekich nefesh needs to eat food which is non-kosher, which she has to eat, because that's the halacha, pekich nefesh. But at least she should nurse her child then, because Saf Kasaf, she needs to have it, but still matamtem asalef. Why should you give her over for a child when it's matamtem asalef? So Chazal say timtem asal, mechulas asiras has a special problem. Timtem halef. It clogs your brain, and you don't understand Torah. You get desensitized to Eibishter, you get desensitized to Torah mitzvahs. Says the Pri Chudash. The Pri Chudash is one of the biggest poskim in which we rely in halacha. It was about 300 years ago. He writes, why do we see today's day we have children which they were small children, they were cute and learning, studious, and they were makbet on Torah, they were makbet on mitzvahs, and they grow up, and Rahman al-Islam, they get cool of Torah mitzvahs and some fry out. So he asked this question, why is it more than once upon a time? Says the Pri Chudash 300 years ago, because we are not makbet so much on mechulas asiras of bugs, since it's very hard to check, and people, we eat all kinds of fruits and vegetables when it's problem. So automatically you eat the word macholas asiras. So that's matamtem asalef. So these innocent children, which basically, when they grew up, when they were young, and they were trying to learn, they wanted to learn, they were still, when they grew up, asked all these things, is matamtem asalef. So therefore, I just wanted to bring to the attention of people should realize macholas asiras is not only bugs. Anything which is, that's why we have to be so much makbet and kashrus, hamachulam, because benoisev of the isirim, we have the punishment right away. So timtem alef means desensitized. And this is what the Pri Chudash writes 300 years ago. What should we say today's day? Because we eat much more things which once upon a time there was bachal on the street, and we see Rahman al-Islam, a lot of ehrliche Yiddische kinder. So at least bring to the attention that it shouldn't be an easy thing. Bugs is a very serious thing. And therefore, Baruch Hashem, that when it comes to bugs and etc., that things, the kashrut organizations most of them are very high standard. Even the national kashrut, which they will have a lot of killers when it comes to other things, which again, there's killers according to halacha, but again, not all the killers we rely. When it comes to bugs, b'derech klal, most of the times, and by most of the foods, they will still rely, they are in a high standard, because it comes to mecholos asiras, is a lot of alarm, a lot of asirim, and simetamtam asalav. Just wanted to make this clear, because it is very important. People do not realize the seriousness of kashas. People could be machmer on all kind of chimras in food, and be meitel on bugs. For instance, chol of akim, non-kosher milk, is a isa derabunan. It's not an isa deraisa. Buying milk, any store, in buying milk, now again, isa derabunan is isa derabunan. It's osir. We are not Reform Jews. It's osir. So there's no different isa derabunan, isa deraisa. But still, it is not an isa deraisa. One bug is isa deraisa 6 times. So when it comes to things which is Isira Drabunan, people will be makbet adasof. When it comes to Yisira D'Oraisa, people will be more lenient. I just wanted to bring the attention of this Lakida that bugs is much more that should be machma than Cholovakim and Pasakim, which again, not to minimize their Isser, because again, this is a Isser Drabonon is awesome, but just to realize that what it means, Isser D'Oraisa, which is Elef Pom Kucho. And I'll go another step. The lachi is, you have a Isser. For instance, you have a product which they put in a thing which is non-kosher. But you have 60 times as much, we know by now, 60 times becomes bottle. With the latam, there's all kind of not so posh. Most of the time, you will say it becomes bottle. But when you have one worm, a tiny worm, falls into a pot which has 10,000 times as much as this worm, and it's whole, it's not crushed, doesn't become bottle. Because it's a barrier. We have a klal, a barrier does not become bottle. Anything which is alive, a living thing, even it's not alive, but it's a thing which is a alive creature, and it's whole. If it got crushed, that's something else. So it doesn't become bottle, even in 10,000 or 100,000.
If you take it out, then it's fine.
We take it out, it's fine.
But if it's in the thing,
If it's in, and even if you don't see it, it's it fell in a water bug fell into a company which has a big fell in halachidik, it doesn't become bottle. Now we don't need to go so much water bug. Let's say a tiny fly fell in, and it's there, and nothing happened. Why should cooking? We'll see. Cooking does not make it, doesn't dissolve it, so it doesn't become bottle. Now, if you know that it went through a process, and let's say minimum something from the body got lost, got broken, a feet, that's fine. Then it becomes bottle. Now, I'm not going to ask, what?
Wouldn't cooking do that in something so small?
Cooking, no. I just checked before I came to the shiur. I wanted to see if cooking makes it. So I looked, Sai Baravai in this book, Sai in Revach, there's other books. They said we checked it out, and it doesn't no. It said, not enough. Even a tiny piece falls off, it's enough. But even that, it doesn't happen. He says they went through what kind of worms. Depends. This one might become, if it's a long time of cooking. He gives the hours, and they checked it. They took infested rice, and they wanted to see what is going to happen. So
They went looking for that.
they went looking for that. Yeah, they bought special. They made sure to get. They wanted to have a report on it. Okay, so again, let's just sum up that a worm which we could see with the human eye is asim and atoira. Even the egg of it, if you have an egg from that fly, sometimes the eggs put down flies, and it's not yet a fly, that egg is osir, asim and atoira. Now, what?
Even if you can't see the egg?
Oh, now over this, this is what I want to say. Like a bottle, if you see it, if you don't see it, then there's no Isser. This I want to make it clear. Anything which you don't see human eyes doesn't exist in Alucha. It's mutter. But even if you do see it, if it's mixed together, like this Alucha, like a bittel, it's not a barrier yet. It's only an egg, it will become bottle. But if you see it, you don't take it out, then you're over of Isser D'Oraisa.
Ignore it.
You can't just ignore it. Exactly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
A little bit back. You mentioned the sperm from a Ravaya. So it's known in the Ravaya that it says that you're not allowed to eat strawberries b'chlal.
Fresh ones.
He talks about, I guess,
Fresh ones.
So I was always wondering, so Hashem made strawberries in the world, so you shouldn't, because Hashem built the not behem bnei adam, so this is not for you, and this is not allowed. But if we have the kalim to how to check it and how to know,
then you could eat. He also says that if you could do it. No, even he says you could do it. So if you have a brush, there's ways. If you have a brush and the problem with the strawberries is mainly he did the green holes which has the tiny dots over there. Now, if he shows you how to do it, if you want to do it, if you want to play around with it, you could do it. So you can't say, the Rishon created that we should be having no. First of all, you can't buy the frozen ones. you could buy ones which they checked and they see it's not infested. That's number one. And number two, yes, the Rebbeinu Shalom sometimes created also things which is not for us. A pig the Rebbeinu Shalom created. Lehenas ben B'nai Yehuda. The Alter Rebbe writes, one of the loisesses was given, how do you mala loisesse, a negative mitzvah? By not doing it. That's your mala. There are things which the Rebbeinu Shalom created, which is basically not, it's for the benefit of a human being. I don't know what, when, and where. It's for the benefit of a human being. But not necessarily that we could eat everything. There are a lot of animals which, there's a lot of
like figs, let's say, some people.
Yes, figs, that's right. Figs or dates or these things is today's day, which is becoming. Now you can ask a simple question. What was once upon a time? What was once? Now the answer to this is a long question, but I'm going to give just the Nikidus. The answer is that there are kifas, and there are places which is much more less infested. Cold places, cold areas. Warm places are more infested. Summer is more infested, winter is less infested. So it has a lot to do with the climate. Benoisov, there's a lot of stages. Today's day, there's a lot of more worms than when I grew up. Why is it? When I grew up, there was a lot of more foods, not because we didn't check. They used to use pasteurizers, which was very strong. And that killed most of the bugs. And there are still countries which use it. Then came, science to health, or health bugs, or environmentalists. I don't know exactly in which category to put it in. But they banned a lot of pesticides. Automatically, all the chevra came back. So now, a lot of things which wasn't infested when I was young, they're more infested because you don't use the method how to clean it. Another thing, my father told me, he grew up Hungary before World War II, and he told me that we knew that there are parshas, let's say, karshen means cherries. From parshas koirach, you couldn't eat cherries anymore. Till parshas koirach, you could eat. And they found even in the parsha something of Saremas. But that was the klal. Karshen, I didn't even know it till he told me. What about cherries? Cherries from Parshas Koirech, you can eat cherries in Hungary. So they knew what's the time of infested, what's not infested. So we cannot ask this question, what was once upon a time? Because we have to understand a lot of our foods which we don't have didn't exist in times to go. So broccoli. I don't remember when I grew up anybody ate broccoli. I don't remember if there was b'chal to buy. Today's day is a global world. You can buy anything and everything. But so it's very hard to say people ate it once. Why? Once, and what happened now? That's the reason. Again, why? Because they knew when to avoid and when not. They were in countries which had less problems. And third, they knew when to stop, when not to stop. And another thing is, that's not a question. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave us today's day that we know that this has a problem. Well, we cannot say, maybe over then it was infested, so what? That's not a reason to say, since they ate strawberries once, and tzaddikim in Gdoli Yisrael ate strawberries, so automatically now we don't have to be choishes. It doesn't work like that. No, if there is a problem, it's a problem. No, you don't ask. I don't think that he asks legamra. The poshtarai is, I don't think, because he gives a hechsher on frozen fruit, frozen strawberries. So automatically there is a way how to you should be able to eat it. So you could eat everything you can eat if you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, then it's a problem. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that if you have fruits, vegetables, and it went through 12 months, you don't have to check it anymore. Because a worm which doesn't have bugs, flies, these kind of things, doesn't have a spine, doesn't have bones, disintegrates after 12 months. So therefore, in such a case, if you don't see anything, that's fine to eat. Now, I just want to make it clear, it's not a practical, I'm just bringing it down, because if somebody's going to tell you that this has a date which was made 2022, so therefore we can eat it, it's not practical today's day. Why isn't it practical today's day? Because it has to be in a way that it could survive 12 months. It's not, it could survive 12 months, not because it's in a freezer, or it's salted, or there is all kind of chemicals which they put in which keeps it fresh. Because the same way it keeps the fruits fresh and the vegetables fresh, or even cans, it keeps the worm and the bug also fresh. Chazal say that if you have a thing which you had dried, let's say, dates or figs, which was setting a long time in a normal climate, and it went through 12 months, then even if you had the worm, it disintegrated. So it becomes, so therefore it was Amin Alucha. But again, most of our stuff we cannot have, it's not practical Lamaisa, but I'm bringing it up just because you should understand, somebody's going to show you a can which is made 12 months from now, says we don't have to check it. It doesn't work like that. Another halacha is that you have bugs or worms that became eifer. That means you baked it and it became ashes. It's okay. Even if you see it, it's mitel. See it because it's la'afadara. So first of all, it's for a choyle you could use it, not for our person, for a regular healthy guy. But another thing we have to realize, that means it was totally baked in an oven. What do I mean? I mean to say two things. First of all, I checked by the Mimchem, like Rabbi Y and the other books on it. They said they made studies also on this. Baruch Hashem, they have labs, and they made studies on this. They say, if you have a worm which is outside, they have apple, let's say, you have a worm on top of it, and you put it in the oven, and you get a baked apple, it's going to disintegrate. This means the Shulchan Aruch. If you have a worm inside of an apple, or inside of a cake, it not necessarily is going to integrate. Not necessarily. But what?
Because you have to burn the cake completely.
You have to, yeah. But I don't want to get, because it's not practical. Where am I heading to? I heard from more than one person that they buy all kind of vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, which has mirzik b'talum. Again, we're going to get to what does it mean mirzik has a chazuk after talum. What is the shear? How much? We're going to get to this because that's the main part of Dikingestān. And they said, what do they do? Or sometimes they buy some kind of leaves, which is I don't know exactly what. All kind of leaves which you use for cooking, and it has a chazuk of talum. So they open the fire and they go over the fire, a minute or two, like this, and it's good to eat. So first of all, we see in Shulchan Aruch it's mutat is only lechoila, even when it's afadara. But even let's assume it is like that. This is what it means. It means when it's in an oven, which gets heated, and then it becomes integrated. When you have leaves and you go through above the fire, nothing happens. That's not a heter. So I just want to bring the attention that that's not a heter which it is. Now there's another locha also, which is also not too practical. We're going to see why. But again, I'm bringing it up because we have to know it. The locha is that a worm which was created in the fruit on the tree is asur, because that's called sheretz hashoyretz al ha'oretz. Sheretz, which is shoyretz, crept on the oretz, because the tree is connected to the oretz, so that's called a sheretz which crept on the air, on the earth. If you take down a fruit or a vegetable and begets bashafen, created a worm inside of the fruit and vegetable when it's cut off, and it never cracked. It's still, you open up, let's say, a peach, and in the peach, in the middle of the flesh of the peach, you're going to find a worm. Mitzad halucha, mitzad haTorah, it's not a problem. Why? Because if we know that it became only after you cut that from the tree, because that's not shoyrish haluras. First of all, it's cut off. It got created only once the peach was cut off, and also it never crept. So therefore, it's not an iser. The problem of practically we can rely on the we cannot rely on it because we never know if it became still on the tree or after the cut off. So we have a sufik deraisa. We know the halacha sufik deraisa is aser. But noisef, even let's assume we do know that it became after you cut off, which basically should be not be a problem. If you walked out on the pit and you walked back into the fruit, it's still a shoynosa because it's called crept. So basically, in order as we could rely this halacha is only people or mimcham who know that this happens in the fruit after it gets cut off, and it's in the flesh, and you see there's no holes. It could be practical for mimcham. It's not practical for us because for us it's a sira d'raisa. So therefore, if you find a peach which has a worm, although the worm has a lot of protein, then you cannot eat it. But halachikla, you find a worm, you cut off the piece where the worm is, the whole peach you could eat. If a fly falls into your coffee, halachically, you take out the coffee, the fly, you could drink the coffee. I don't know if you want to do that, but you could do it. Halachically, you do it. So just to make it clear, the iser is the fly and not the fruit. Are you going to ask why isn't it Osar, because it is Osar Iser, why doesn't it give a taste in the pot or in the coffee? The answer is the Shechanur Shtayt, there was always be 60 against this fly or against this bug. That's one reason. Other reason is bogam. Al kaponam, that's the locha that you could always take it out, and if you want to drink it, you could drink it. But again, Nachman, it's not practical to see once you have a fruit, a vegetable which has bugs, to say maybe it's after you cut off because you don't know the only thing which you could rely on eating a thing which bugs, which you see a live bugs, you want to eat the protein, you could eat halachi, is the only thing is hard cheese. Hard cheese. Now, if anyone was once in France, yeah, over there they're big into cheese. And over there, you could buy a slice of cheese for $1,500, $2,000, you know, and you see the bugs on it. I was there one summer, and I saw a tiny store, and there was a big smell coming out. So I went to the store and I wanted to see if it's a fish store or something rotten stuff. Tiny store, and it has cheese over there. And it was coming out. You want to taste something? I'll give you something to taste. I says, no, nothing to taste. He had over there cheese, which were green from mold, but if you understand what it means, it's very expensive because this is how it works. And I saw then, like the Swiss cheese, it has the holes. There was all kind of worms creeping around. And if it went down on the table and went back, then it's a problem. As long as it's still on the cheese, you could eat it. So if anybody wants to taste how a worm wants to taste, the only way how you could do it is you could buy such a cheese and you can eat it. Other than that, you cannot. Is it by cheese because it's called that. It's like what I said before. If the worm went out from the place where it was created, yeah, where it's created, then it's not a problem. It's not sheres or shoyretz. The Torah asat sheres or shoyretz. If you have a peach and you know for sure it was created by Shafen, it was after it was cut off from the tree, and you know for sure that basically this worm did not move from its place, which we don't know. Maybe Mimcha can know, we don't know. Such a case, it's not an Isser, because I can put him on Isser the for sure not. So therefore, the Torah gave us klulam what is Asar, and this the Torah did not Nasar. So Shtayt Shechan clear that when it comes to cheese, it's not an issue. Now, even in cheese there are yesh asram, aber lamasa that's about it. It's not.
I heard that in figs, there's a special worm that, in order for the fig to grow, the worm has to be inside it, and that's what makes the fig grow.
All the figs?
Yeah. That's
How
like
could
part
such a
of
be a
the-
thing?
That's what I heard once.
No.
Part of the
Yeah,
growing
yeah,
of
the
fish.
fertilization process that makes the fruit develop. A fish, like a wasp, needs to bring pollen from.
Pollen, yeah. Okay,
but
pollen
then
is
the
not,
wasp
not-
sometimes or most times gets like stuck inside.
Okay, so therefore it is mirzik b'talum. That's why dates and figs are mirzik b'talum. That's one of the problems.
But it's not that kind of halacha.
No. Because this is a thing which comes from outside. Another halacha which we're going to say before we go further is a thing which is called a worm, which is called anisakis. Now, I just wanted, it's good to know. I'm going to see how the halacha is, how we paskin, at least how I paskin. And then we go, there is a worm which is called anisakis. It's probably heard it, because lately, the last couple of years, there was a big balagan regarding this. I would say the last 15 years. It is in fish, which is wild caught salmon, which from the ocean wild caught salmon. They have a worm which is called anisakis. Now, let me give a gdoma. The law is in Shulchan Aruch that there are worms which is created b'bsar hadog, in the flesh of the fish. It's created over there. Steht in Shulchan Aruch, you could eat it. You could eat the fish with that bug, with that worm. Why? Because it was created b'bsar hadog. Now, not all the Rishonim are masking to this. The Rambam is not masking, but again, Shulchan Aruch paskins is okay. So by us, the Shulchan Aruch is the poisek. But if you find a worm in the stomach or in the head, then it's osir. It's a stomach. It's osir. Carpfish, for instance, the head of a carpfish is a big problem. So people buy carpfish. The head of carpfish, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, they want to have a head of a fish. It's a big problem. You have to check it, and it's a problem. It's osir. If you find a worm in the stomach, in the intestines of the fish, it's osir, because that's a fish which came out from outside. It's osir. If you find a worm which is in the b'sar hadog, that means in the flesh of the fish, shtei Shulchan Aruch, it's okay. Now, I would say 30 years ago, a little bit less, they were found in whitefish. It was like a bubble, and in the bubble, tiny bubble, in the bubble, you people saw it. I saw it. In the bubble, you open it up, and there was a small tiny worm, curved, in that bubble, and it became a whole shala. Could you eat it? Could you not eat it? And I would say 99.9% of poskim, I would say even more, 0.9, except rarely. Manarti said this also, but all of the poskim say this is what the Shulchan Aruch says, that it is only, you find it only in the b'sar hadog, that means in the flesh of the fish, and that's not a problem. Years later, about 10, 12 years later, they came up on new things. This is the word which I'm speaking. It's called anisakis. You can read on it a lot because it comes up. It was a lot of Torah journals wrote about it. And over there, the problem was you found it in the b'sar hadog, so it should be okay. It should be not a problem. But the problem is you also find the same worm in the intestines of the fish. So now the question is it that this worm was created in the flesh and therefore it's mitter? You see the also in the intestines. Whatever it is in the intestines is also. Whatever is in the flesh is mitter. That's what we can say. But some poskim came up, and it's based on science, that basically this worm is full in the ocean. There's a lot of these worms. Comes bigger fish, sucks it in, and bigger than this worm, sucks it in, eats it. Then comes the bigger fish, salmon, sucks in the smaller fish. So the worm goes in from outside. So now you have it in his intestines. Why is it in the b'saradag, in the flesh? So the science came up that basically, because once you take out the fish from the water, it becomes cold, it dies. So the worms are looking for warmth. So they creep in, they have a hole, they make a hole, they go into the flesh, and they stick in the flesh. Over there, it's much more comfortable. So over there, if this is the case, let's assume if this is the case, then you have a problem. Although you find it in the b'sar dog, in the flesh, but we know it comes from outside. So there are, over there you had already more poskim, which said it's a problem. Ravosna, Gestern, contemporary poskim said it's a problem, especially when you have a Rambam which Bechal holds is a problem. But also over here, most of the poskim, the majority, said we are not considering anything which science tells us. It's not negay what science tells us. First of all, the Torah is based on Torah, it's not based on science. There's a beautiful, in a Sikha of the Rebbe also, it has this, mamash, this only kid, the Rebbe talks about it. We are going to come to halacha, we're not going to science. So therefore, if the Torah in halacha tells us it's okay, we don't care what science says. So that's number one. Number two, even if it is what science says, the fish which takes in this worm when it's in the ocean, it's not Meral Nanaim. So we remember what we said at the beginning of the Shiur, which is very important halacha. Anything which we don't see doesn't exist. So although in science we should have microscopes and they know exactly how this worm comes in and basically comes from outside, but when it's still outside, it is a thing which we don't see. Science sees it, we don't see. So that means it doesn't exist. It was created in the b'sar dog. So therefore, most of the poskim over here would say already 75% till 80%, not before I said 99.9. Over here we have 75% poskim, which said it is okay. And I would say most of Klal Yisrael will rely on this thing, that it's okay. And therefore, most of Klal Yisrael will eat dagim, salmon, which is wild caught. And most of Klal Yisrael will eat salmon, which you buy in Aldi's or in Wegmans, which is wild caught, because although all of them have this, by the way, don't look, but all of them have it. But again, it's okay. Halacha says it's okay. It's not a problem. But I just want to say there are some, more than some, which are machmar. Because of Kesov, you have the Rambam, which holds his also, the Ravosna, and the big poiskim is 9. Some big poiskim is 9. So therefore, Dagim came out with a new, not now, already 10 years, with a new run, which is called Dagyam. They changed a little bit the name. It's called Dagyam, not Dagim, which is called fish. Dagyam, it's a play on words. And over there, they make cans of tuna, of salmon, which is farm raised. And therefore, a lot of Chassidim, which are makpet, even on this worm, will only buy farm raised, because the farm raised doesn't have this problem. This doesn't come from the ocean. So I'm lamaisa halachically, it's not an issue. You could eat it. So therefore, you could eat lax if it's with a proper hechsher, which had the skin, whatever, which is not other problems with a kapunim. But the problem of this worm is not an issue. Again, there are people who will not eat lax, they will not eat anything which is, because all the lax are made from wild caught, by the way. So therefore, but again, pasuk nalucha, you don't have to be machmer. You could eat all the salmon, which is basically in a can, and you could buy all the wild caught. Now, a person wants to be machmer for himself, that's fine. Dagim had enough of people that they made a new product. But again, halachically lamaisa, it's okay. So again, let me just sum it up what we spoke as of now. We spoke like this, that worms, flies, which comes from a fruit, a vegetable, which was created in a fruit and a vegetable, not on the tree, and it didn't move, halachically it's not a problem. If it moved, that means it went outside of the fruit, it went back, or it went on the pit, it went back, or it was created on the tree, it's asar. How much? What is it asar? It's asar if it is a fly which comes from the water. It is sheres hamayim. It will be, as I mentioned before, 4 lavam. Sheres off is going to be 6 lavim, and sheres ha'oris is going to be 5 lavim. So again, that's also worms and food is an issue which is osur. But another thing we have to realize has to be seen. Anything which we don't see doesn't exist in halacha. Whatever we see, although we don't know what we see, but we see. You have, for instance, citrus fruit. Sometimes you have a tiny black dot. Yeah, kinamin. How do you say it in English? I don't know. How do you say it? I don't know. It's like a trip. I don't know. So now again, if it's not a thing which is mirzik b'talum, okay, you don't have to worry. But if it is a thing which is mirzik b'talum, again, there's lists. What is mirzik b'talum, and we're going to get to that. What is mirzik b'talum? Again, just to translate, what is mirzik b'talum has a chazaka that has talum. That's one word which you need to know. Then there's another thing which is called miyat hamutzi. Mirzik b'talum means 50% of it has talum. Miyat hamutzi means it doesn't have 50%. Because if you have 50%, we're going to see soon, or the next year is going to be have 50%. That's chiv min haTorah. If it's a miyat hamutzi, that means it's only a miyat. And we're going to see what it means, miyat hamutzi. What is the percentage? If it's a miyat hamutzi, it's a medrabunan. Abrakaponam, if it has a miyat hamutzi, and you see a dot, so over there, now you have to see what it is. And then it's not. Now, when it comes to citrus fruit, it's not a problem. You just take off the clipper. But when it comes to other fruits, and you see a dot, you might have a thing. Then you have to start b'dikzan. Same will also be if you see a celery, and you see a tunnel. Oops! Now you have to see, because usually when there's a tunnel, there's a worm, or it was a worm. So therefore, in such a thing, you have to be. Although you don't see only a dot, it is a chashash as a worm, and you have to, since we see it. If we wouldn't have been seen since we see it already, and therefore it's osur. What else did we go through? That even the egg, if you know the interesting story from one of the young lads over here told me the story. He once bought meat in a place, I don't know exactly where, and he made a cookout. And after in the middle of making the cookout, he started seeing worms on the meat. Started seeing the meat. So what's going on? Meat should have. So he went back to the store. What's going on? And then they realized, it's a very important thing to know, that if you leave fish or meat in the summer outside for a few hours, flies come and they put it down eggs. It's only an egg. You are not going to see it. It's an egg. That's the flies, the special flies which smell meat or fish. They will come and you're not going to see anything. They're going to put down eggs. Once you take and you put it on the fire, comes hot, the eggs break open and the worm comes out. So it's very important to know never to leave summer without. Now it's vacuum packed or it's proper storage on the refrigerator. You don't have this issue. But if it's not proper closed and you leave it outside in the house, heating summer, you're going to have problems. So again, it's not a mirzik b'talum. Let me make it clear. There's not an issue. You don't have to be boiling meat for these things. So I want to make it 100% clear. Whatever you don't need to do, I don't want to burden anybody more than what you need to do. So it's not an issue. Not by fish and not by. I'm just explaining that it's a thing which happens, and therefore even the eggs is a issa daraisa. And finally, we said that we should remember that benoisif to being over of a lot of Yisirim is the problem over here. It clogs your brain and it clogs the brain of the children. And we all want to do anything and everything for our children should grow up. They should understand Torah and they should be Yirei Shamayim. And we ourselves should be Yirei Shamayim and not be Timtim Azalev. We should have sensitivity for Torah mitzvahs. And not checking a box and eating things which need to be checked is a thing which is a big problem. Pashat, benoisif Yirei Shamayim is a problem, a physical problem, Timtim Alef, Amoyach. Therefore, we should take these things serious. And again, That's why today there's books, which is very good, and they give instructions how to do it. And once you did whatever you need to do, it's fine. Then you don't have to care anymore. You did what was the halacha says. You did how the mimcha say how to clean it. So therefore, there's no such thing as you could not eat. You could eat broccoli, you could eat cauliflower, you could eat strawberries, but has to be with a proper hechsher, and which they went through a cleaning when we know that it's okay. Now, if takasi gevein epis which you didn't know, we did whatever we could. The Rebbeinu Shalom did not give the Torah for malachim, gave it for human beings. We did whatever we could do, and that's always kedai to know. You can never, whenever you do something which the halacha requires, and you did it, you cannot double cross you and start thinking maybe. What? Maybe I missed something. And it's very important, especially for women when they have their mitzvahs. They should remember they do whatever says Shulchan Aruch. You never think maybe. No, you did what you need to do. You did what the Eibusher says. The Torah was not given for malachim, for human beings. You followed the halacha and forget about it. You did what you need and everything's fine. Don't start thinking don't have OCD in these things. And the Eibusher helped that we should be able to be nizer, like we see mazan mashi chumatz, we should be nizer from a mashi worm, and we will have children which are going to be Tamid Chachoma min Yirei Shamayim. Next year we're going to go through more details, choivas badika, and how to check. It's gonna be more so to speak. But I had to give this share in order to understand the choimer iser, because a lot of people do not realize that this is worse than chulav akim, and it's worse than pas akim, and it's worse than a piece of chazer steak and shrimp. Just people do not realize, and it's much harder to so to speak, wash out. And therefore, the Torah keeps on constantly even other reason because the Torah wants to tell you, like the postum say, you should know, even though it's hard, even though it's small, you have to watch out those things. This is what I want. This is the losh of the postum keeps on repeating.